Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington, and let me start tonight with the turbulence over this prisoner exchange. The questions most reasonable people are asking concern U.S. security. Was it good for the U.S. to have these 5 top Taliban figures released back to the region? Is it plausible that the effort by the Taliban to get them back is strategic on its part to have top commanders ready to take part in the eventual challenge to the Afghanistan government once the U.S. pulls out? Are we being unintended allies of a Taliban push to regain power? Was Bowe Bergdahl simply a pawn in its plan to return Afghanistan to what it was before we invaded? And what is this claim that Bowe Bergdahl served with honor and distinction? How does this square with the word that he mailed his possessions back home to his parents before he left his unit? Is this putting too pretty a picture on Bergdahl's conduct and loyalty? Is this an attempt to make the deal for his release a happier occasion than it might otherwise merit? Whatever the administration or its allies say now, this has grown quickly into a serious debate in this country and is hardly the familiar Democrat versus Republican fight, even if the usual suspects on the right out there are doing what they predictably do, attack President Obama. Barry McCaffrey's a retired 4-star Army general and an MSNBC political analyst. And, of course, Colonel Morris Davis was the chief prosecutor for terrorism trials at Guantanamo Bay. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We got a new development here. Let's get right to the breaking development this evening. This afternoon, Senator Dianne Feinstein, chair of the Intelligence Committee, said that the administration violated the law by failing to notify Congress about the prisoner transfers. Let's watch Senator Feinstein.
I understand, and I believe the vice chairman does as well, that there are circumstances when the president needs to act quickly and that his Article 2 powers allow him to do so. However, I also believe that given the past briefings and concerns that we had addressed, and these were from both committees and the leadership of both committees, the concerns were bipartisan. And I strongly believe that we should have been consulted, that the law should have been followed, and I very much regret that that was not the case.
It wasn't the case that they were consulted. Apparently, we're hearing this from Mike Rogers and others on the House Intelligence Committee side. And the question is, these are politicians. I have great respect for Dianne Feinstein, but she is not just saying that she wasn't consulted, not just saying the law was violated. She is implicitly saying, I don't like this deal. Because why else would she be causing this objection? General McCaffrey, what are you hearing from people about the deal itself? The 5 Taliban leaders that are going back to that region in exchange for the one American whose status is still very murky, what it was when he left the service.
What for sure is not a debate inside the armed forces. People are glad we got Bergdahl back. If he'd been drunk downtown Kabul and abducted, we still would have wanted him back. So we got a lot of people killed and wounded and involved in operations for 5 years now trying to get him back. That's not a debate. The question is, why would the president and his advisors think it was a good idea to embrace a guy who we knew walked away from his post in a combat situation and ended up getting his buddies in difficult situations?
What do you mean by embrace?
Well, I mean, the fact he walked out with the parents, the fact we had Susan Rice, a brilliant woman, talking about serving with honor and distinction. He risks losing credibility among his 2.3 million men and women of the armed forces with this kind of nonsense. Exactly.
Well, let me ask you about the tough one here. How do you get him out if the other side won't make any other deal but this one?
Well, we got 60,000 killed and wounded. So Bergdahl's misconduct landed him in 5 years of misery with the Taliban. It's possible we would have never gotten him back. The question at hand is, was it worth letting go the 5 most dangerous people in our hands? That's really the president's call. But at the end of the day, this was misconduct. We should not characterize this guy as a hero. And by the way, he shouldn't be a honorably medically retired staff sergeant a year from now. His misconduct should have been ruled not line of duty.
Well, let's talk about this. The 5 detainees released in this deal were all high-ranking members of the Taliban, according to the Washington Post. They include the Taliban's Army's chief of staff, the former chief of Taliban security in Afghan's southern capital, the former deputy chief of intelligence, a senior commander, and the former interior ministry of the Taliban government. Well, today in Poland, President Obama defended his decision to swap these 5 leaders for 1 U.S. soldier. Let's watch.
Regardless of the circumstances, whatever those circumstances may turn out to be, we still get an American soldier back if he's held in captivity. Period. Full stop. We don't condition that.
Well, the full stop problem with that is that a year from now, if we're still talking about this, it won't be about Bergdahl. He'll be back home in Idaho. We'll be talking about what those 5 people are up to over there. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey, wrote this on his Facebook page, quote, "The questions about this particular soldier's conduct are separate from our effort to recover any U.S. service member in enemy captivity. This was likely the last best opportunity to free him. As for the circumstances of his capture, when he was able to provide them what he's been able to provide them, we'll learn the facts. Like any American, he's an innocent until proven guilty." Let me go to Colonel Davis. The question I have, and I hope you can stick to it, is the reasonableness of this decision to release 5 dangerous men who will eventually find their way back to Afghanistan, the country they wish to take over. And the question I have is from the other side. Why did they fight so hard to get these 5 guys back? Their leaders? This isn't humanitarian. They want them back, it seems to me, for some strategic reason, to be part of what their plans are once we leave a year from now. Your thoughts about the strategic danger of these releases?
Well, I would push back a bit on the hyperbole about these being the most dangerous men at Guantanamo. I mean, this wasn't
I didn't say that.
No,
well, don't push back at me, sir, because I didn't say that.
I'm not.
I said one was chief of staff of the Taliban. One of the other one was a top intelligence officer, one of the Southern Command guys. These guys were pretty high ranking. And my question to you is, why did they want them back so much?
Well, in 12 years, we could never. In 12 years, we could never charge these guys. We had no evidence to charge them. The Taliban, clearly they were affiliated with the Taliban. It would make sense they would ask for them back. Our legal basis to detain them is going to run out at the end of the year with the close of the Afghan war. So in my view, this was a win-win. Get a soldier back, get 5 detainees out of Guantanamo that we couldn't charge, hadn't charged in 12 years. I think it was a good decision.
Well, wait a minute. Why are they no longer a danger to the United States in terms of that war front? We're going to have personnel over there. And by the way, by your logic, we could have let General Giap free when we left Vietnam, even though we were no longer in the war. But he's certainly a threat to our allies and certainly a threat to our interests.
Well, we had no
evidence. These guys are the enemy of the United States, are they not? I'm asking you, are they our enemies?
If we had any evidence that they'd committed any offense, we would have preferred charges against them. And in 12 years, we couldn't do that.
That's why we keep them in Gitmo, of course, because they're dangerous.
Well, our legal justification's been that we're at war, and the president has said by the end of the year that war is coming to an end. So, you know, we've got to come up with either a new legal fiction.
Do you think the war against the United States, from the Taliban point of view, is going to be over when we check out of there? Do you honestly believe they're going to stop attacking us and our interests?
Well, I don't think we measure our behavior by what the Taliban thinks. I mean, legally, the war is coming to an end, and that's what we've cited to the courts for a decade now.
You're making these legal points, which I question because I don't think they cease to be hostiles. But my question is this. If those guys get back in there and start killing American GIs who are stationed at our embassy or anywhere else, whose head's that on? Yours or the president's? But it's somebody's, because the person who lets them go is responsible for them now. Right now.
Well, if you're going to wait till the risk is reduced to 0, then they'll be serving a life sentence.
How about down to something plausible? Let me ask you this. Do you think it's plausible that those guys are going to retire from this war?
Well, we don't know. Only time's going to tell, but we're never going to...
You don't think so. How about you don't think so? Say you don't think so. That means something. You don't know doesn't mean anything. We don't know everything. But don't you think it's plausible that they will continue the fight against the United States?
It's certainly possible. I wouldn't rule that out.
And you want to let them go?
Well, we have to have some legal justification to detain them, and in the absence of that, then yes, that's the alternative.
How about a conversation with one of them when they say we're out to get the United States? We're engaged in active military jihad against the United States. Isn't that enough evidence that they're a danger to the United States when they say so?
If there was some evidence that we could charge them with an offense, we would have done it. I mean, we're prosecuting Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Okay. These guys were never brought up for prosecution.
Well, all I can tell you is they're down there for a reason. General, let's talk about our military. What's the reaction of our military that you know to the fact that we're releasing 5 people who are hostile to the United States, involved in the Taliban fight against the United States? That's how they were picked up. They want to go back to where it was before we got there, obviously. They want the country they had control of back again, right? Well, and we're giving them the chance to do it, it seems to me.
By the way, the first question I'd ask is, when the president made this decision in the White House Situation Room, what was the opinion of the CIA, of the Counterterrorism Center? What did the chairman of the JCS
Susan Rice was telling him that our guy Bergdahl served with distinction and honor. I mean, he already heard that line. What else? That they're also going to be kept in house arrest over there for a year? We're reporting today says, no, they're not held in house arrest. They have free roam of the country of Qatar. And by the way, they do have telephones, and they can get together, and they can meet somewhere over coffee or whatever.
It was a huge victory for the Taliban. And again, I'm not disputing the president's right to make some of these calls. I just think in this case it was a bad judgment. And the worst part of it for the morale of the fighting forces of the U.S. Army and Marines was letting go a guy, embracing the parents, making it a public ceremony, calling it honor and distinction when we knew he'd walked away from his combat unit. That was the worst aspect of it.
Why do you think they did it? Susan Rice, you said, is smart. I think she's smart. Why are they building up the case for Bergdahl?
I cannot imagine how they sat around that table and came up with a good idea to have the President of the United States go out in the Rose Garden and announce this thing. It's just astonishing.
Let me go to Colonel Davis. You know military law. I respect that. But what about this requirement that the President notify the Congress for 30 days before he cuts such a deal? Dianne Feinstein is a solid member of the United States Senate, maybe the most solidest there is, the one true grown-up over there, I think, some days. And she makes sure that we know what she just said a few minutes ago, late this afternoon. She doesn't like this. She thinks the President of the United States, her political ally, has broken the law. What do you make of that?
Well, I think she's wrong. I mean, you go back to the Bush administration and Jay Bybie's memo in 2002 where he said that Congress trying to put any constraints on the president's authority as commander-in-chief is unconstitutional. He was talking about enhanced interrogation in the torture statute, but the same rationale applies here. And the president issued a signing statement when he signed this 30-day notification provision, and he said he was signing the bill, but he felt that it was an unconstitutional infringement on his authority as commander-in-chief. So I understand her objection, but I think the president's right in this case that he had the constitutional authority to do what he did.
So his signing of that bill meant nothing.
Well, it obviously meant a lot. It was the Defense Authorization Act, but that provision on the 30.
Yeah, when he signed a law, you had no intention of enforcing. That's why I don't quite get it. Do you take the president as a serious man when he signs something that includes that requirement of a 30-day notification? Do you think that means something or doesn't mean anything? Is there a moral reservation attached?
I think the Constitution trumps the statute.
Even if he signed it?
Yes.
Well, that's certainly weird. That's weird. I'm not a lawyer. Sometimes I'm glad I'm not a lawyer. Morris, Colonel, thank you for coming on. We'd like to argue with you. You may be right. I always say that to myself at the end of these shows. I may be wrong. I don't think so. Thank you, General McCaffrey, and thank you, Colonel. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service, of course. Coming up, the Army's about to launch a high-level inquiry into the circumstances surrounding Bergdahl. That's Bowe Bergdahl's disappearance. And some members of his own unit are bitter that he walked away. We're going to talk to a member of that unit tonight about that. It's coming right up in a minute here. Also, tonight's tight-as-nails Republican Senate primary, we think, in Mississippi. With luck, a Tea Party win could give Democrats, let's get it straight here, a plausible chance even to win in Mississippi. Plus, what do you do when you lose 2 elections as a Republican in a majority Hispanic district? What else? You switch parties. Then give yourself the name Cesar Chavez and hope nobody notices. I can't believe nobody's going to notice. Anyway, let me finish tonight with this deal we're talking about that raises more issues than it resolves, obviously. And this is Hardball, the place for politics. Welcome back to Hardball. Now that Army Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl is no longer in Taliban hands, we're hearing a lot about him from his fellow platoon members who served with him. And from those who have spoken out, we hear a deep sense of bitterness that Bergdahl left his post. I'm joined now by one of Bergdahl's former platoon members, Joshua Cornelison, who was a medic, actually, in Bergdahl's platoon in Afghanistan. His appearance was arranged by Capital Media, partners, a communications and strategy firm with Republican ties. Also with us, Eric Schmidt, national security correspondent for the New York Times, whose front page story today outlined the anger felt by Bergdahl's former platoon members. Another one of Bergdahl's former platoon members, who was team leader on the night Bergdahl disappeared, just told CNN that there's more to this story than a soldier walking away. The report says, quote, within days of Bergdahl's disappearance, teams monitoring radio chatter and cell phone communications intercepted an alarming message. The American is in a village 2 miles away. He's looking for someone who speaks English so he can talk to the Taliban. I heard it straight from the interpreter's lips as he heard it over the radio, said the former team leader. There's a lot more to this story than a soldier walking away. Let me get to Joshua Cornelison. Your thoughts and your feelings about the conduct of your former fellow soldier.
He purposefully and willfully walked away from his post in our small outpost in Mest. He predetermined when and why he was going to leave. That's unknown to anybody except for Bowe Bergdahl. But he purposely walked away and abandoned his post, abandoned his platoon, and abandoned his army.
Why do you? What evidence do we have that he had a clear plan? Do you have an idea whether he had a plan to go to the Taliban or a plan to just walk to the east to Pakistan? We're getting different stories as this develops. Now, this latest story that he may have been going to actually make contact with the Taliban. We don't know it yet, but we just heard one report on that. Did you ever hear anything like that before? That he was going to join the other side?
You would never, ever tell anybody that you're going to walk off the post, because then you would be pulled back from the front line and you would get mental examinations and you would no longer be in actual combat arms. So he never, ever told anybody, hey, guess what, tomorrow morning I'm going to walk off the post, because that would totally jeopardize his predetermined plan to actually leave.
Give me a sense of the position of your post at the time. I've read so many really frightening stories about how people are really out there out in the outposts out there in Afghanistan, all by yourself, and you're always worried every minute who's going to come get you. It's like the old Cowboys and Indians movies. You don't know when there's going to be a sound in the night or somebody come up. Or was it that kind of feeling you were in close contact with the enemy? Did you have that feeling when you were out there?
All the time, yeah. We were in a very small OP, a little small outpost where it was just my platoon. So it was just 30 of us and our 5 MRAPs. And we were responsible for helping train this A&P, this kind of roadblock setup where they could help train and figure out, what they needed to be looking for as far as suspicious vehicles or personnel coming or going. We were about a 3-hour drive from the nearest Army base. So we were in the middle of nowhere, just my platoon, just the 30 of us, and whatever supplies we brought with us.
So if you left the perimeter, which you were guarding, you would have a sense you would be picked up by the Taliban. Whatever your intentions would be, you would be picked up by the enemy, if not shot on sight.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got blown up more times than I can count while driving to OP Mest. You knew that they were around. You knew that they wanted to hurt you, kill you, capture you. So stepping outside of the wire by yourself without any authorization, without any help, it was pretty much it was just like a death wish. You were almost expecting to get captured if you were to wander around by yourself.
Eric Schmidt, thanks for your joining and your straight reporting on this for the Times. What is your how does this story comport with other accounts you've been able to report on?
Well, clearly, it was Josh has just given his firsthand account of what the situation was like in this outpost in June of 2009. Very hostile environment in eastern Afghanistan, not far from the Pakistan border, and it was striking that, by most accounts that I've been able to come up with, that then Private Bergdahl walked off the base without any body armor, without his rifles. At best, he's naive walking into the security situation that Josh just described. But I've seen no indication yet that he left deliberately to join the Taliban, for instance, and act against the Americans. Clearly, he had emailed back to his parents back in Idaho that he was disillusioned with the war. He talked to, I think, some of his comrades there at the post. But a lot of what motivated this young man at the time is still unknown, and we probably won't know it for several weeks or months to come.
Joshua, do you think someone of sound mind would have thought they could have walked to Pakistan without being picked up by the Taliban from your post where you're in that outpost?
I can't answer that. I mean, you would have to be very either cocky or just dumb if you think that you could have just walked around in Afghanistan by yourself without any kind of support, without your weapon, without your body armor. Just go out with your pocket knife and your notebook and hope to survive. You have to be dumb, naive, or something else. I don't know.
Okay, Eric, in today's New York Times front page, of course, you address charges that some U.S. soldiers may have died in the course of searching for Mr. Bergdahl, Sergeant Bergdahl now. You write, quote, the furious search for Sergeant Bergdahl, his critics say, led to the deaths of at least 2 soldiers and possibly 6 others in the area. Pentagon officials say those charges are unsubstantiated and are not supported by a review of a database of casualties in the Afghan war. Where are you in that right now in terms of your reporting? Were lives lost by soldiers courageously going out to try to find him before this deal was cut?
It's still very unclear, Chris, as to what the circumstances were here. They were, as Josh has pointed out, these soldiers were in a very dangerous part of Afghanistan. So whether or not, even if Bergdahl hadn't been lost and they were searching for him, they would have been out doing combat patrols. Could very well have been coming under attack there. So to try and link some of these very unfortunate casualties that the Americans suffered off that post to the search for Bergdahl is somewhat problematic, particularly those that happened later in the summer, some in August and September, that some soldiers are now blaming on the search for Bergdahl. That's been pretty difficult to substantiate it so far.
When you, Joshua, thanks for your service, by the way, but thank you also for what I'm going to ask you to answer right now. When you're out there in an outpost, and I try to think about you guys, mainly guys, out there in these terrible situations, scared to death in some cases, but doing it for your country. Who did you see on the other side around you? Who did you see? When you try to think about the Taliban, did you think about it in the way all soldiers do, they're just the enemy? Or did you have some sense of them being weird and somehow focused on religious fury and opposition to anything modern and any kind of freedom on the part of women? Did you get any of that? What did you think of the Taliban surrounding you? Who were these guys that this guy ended up being in contact with, apparently?
Anybody that tries to blow me up, anybody that tries to hurt me, hurt my platoon, anybody that I care about, they're the enemy. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care how they were brought up. I don't care what their creed, what their ethics are. Anybody that tries to kill me or people that I care about, that's my enemy. So I don't care if I don't care what their agenda is. If they are trying to kill me, I need to do everything that I can to protect myself and my platoon members.
That's the amazing thing about Bergdahl. He walked into a group of people and he shared your view. They were out to kill him, and he walked right into them unarmed with a notebook and a penknife or something. Unbelievable. Anyway, thank you, Joshua Cornelison. Thank you for your service. And Eric Schmidt, thank you from the great New York Times. And I mean that. Up next, the desperate attempt by one Republican candidate to win a seat in Congress with a new party and a new name. Isn't he sweet? Cesar Chavez is his new name. This is Hardball, the place for politics.